What's up, guys? It's Shaun here, aka TheShaunsie, part of the GamerDen network. One of the things our channel is really focused on is video games. You'll see a lot of videos put up there from different games that we've been enjoying, but there is a huge contingent of us in the GamerDen that really enjoys playing tabletop games. And a great avenue for this is Tabletop Simulator. You can get it on Steam for usually around $10 on sale, maybe $20, and it gives you access to so many games. But a great mod in the workshop is the Star Wars Destiny mod, and this is a game that I've been playing since November of last year. It's an absolutely phenomenal game. It does have some cool, like, weird design things to it, but the game itself is a collectible card and dice game, and it's super exciting. They are now on their third set called Empire at War. Star Wars Destiny is produced by Fantasy Flight Games in Roseville, Minnesota. They're actually owned by Asmodee, which is a French company, and but that living in Minnesota, that provides some really cool opportunity to play these games with huge fans of the series. And these games are not only enjoyed in Minnesota, but around the country and, yes, around the world. And one of their biggest hits is Star Wars Destiny. This is a collectible card and dice game in the Star Wars universe, spanning the whole saga, including movies and TV shows. And what we do is we choose a few characters, either on the good side or the bad side, and each of them have dice attached to those cards. We also then have a 30-card deck as well. However, this is the starter game that just released, the two-player starter game, and there are only 20 cards in this deck. And it's meant to give everyone a good representation of what the full game, once you start collecting, is like. Although Fantasy Flight has a fantastic introduction to the game, a professionally edited video, I wanted to do this for part of the GamerDen network and also on my own, so that I can essentially establish some of the rules and then get into what how deep this game goes and share a few games that I've played online. So let's talk about the setup of the game. We each bring 30 points worth of characters and their associated dice. So, for example, here on my side, we have Dameron, who in the bottom left of the card shows two numbers, an 11 and a 15. That is associated with the base version of him, and then also the elite version. The elite version is running 2 dice of Dameron. So Dameron is 15 points for his 2 dice, so we get to bring him with. He has 11 health, and then also he has a special ability, which is signified by that little dot, and then also some damage sides, focus sides, and we'll get into what all those sides mean. We also have Rey along with him, classic pairing. Again, 12 for 1 die, 15 for 2 in the bottom left. She has 11 health, and she also has an ability. After you activate this character, if she has 1 or more shields, you may deal 1 damage to a character. So now we have 15, 2 die Rey, and 2 die Poe at 15, equaling 30 points. And you have 30 points of character points to spend when you bring your deck to play. You also, right now, we have a 20-card deck here, which is included in the starter game, but the actual official play is 30 cards. 30 cards that you can bring, and these will be upgrades you can play on your characters. There'll be supports, which might be vehicles or droids that can come to your aid, and also cool events, which are really powerful, usually cards that alter the flow of the game. Although this may sound a little bit overwhelming, the game is relatively simple. You simply take an action, and then your opponent takes an action. You'll take an action, and then your opponent takes an action. But, as we know, just like the spoon in the Matrix, cards are meant to bend or break the rules of the game. So we've got several of those cards in the starter game here, a lot of really good cards. And the other thing that you're going to bring to the table as well is a battlefield. Now, I don't have any battlefields up, but I'm going to get them right now. So now we have our battlefields on, and each of the each of the players will bring their own battlefield. For example, in the starter set here, Rey and Poe brought the battlefield of Obi-Wan's hut, which has a cool ability. And these are going to essentially dictate sometimes the flow of the game, sometimes special ability, sometimes you don't even care what they do. But you're usually going to want to bring something that's either very advantageous to you or that's relatively neutral and can't harm you too much if the opponent plays on it. We're just going to go over a little bit of the setup to start. So each player starts the game with 2 resources. You're also going to take your characters and have them ready, which is face up. So you'll draw 5 cards from your deck. And then what you'll do is you'll have a Mulligan Phase, and each player gets to pick as many cards as they want from these 5 cards, and then they get to put them back in their deck and draw back up to 5 cards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my Inner Strength card, and I'm going to face down, put all of my cards in my deck here, reshuffle it, and draw 4 more, and each player will do that. Okay, so you have an opportunity to get some cool upgrades, to get some cards that are going to really affect your early game. And then what we're going to do is, say our opponent has 5 cards. We will then roll out all of our dice that we've brought with us. Each team will, or each player will do this. So we'll get these out of the way, and we'll roll all of our dice. And what happens now is we're just seeing who wins the initiative, so to speak. So right now, it just goes based on the numbers that you have on your dice. So right now, Captain Phasma, who we're playing against, has 2. Kylo Ren has 2, for a total of 4. However, I have nothing on my special, a blank on this Poe die, and only 2. So the opposite player here would then get to decide which battlefield they'd like to play on. So they get to choose. Let's say that they choose their battlefield because they really like playing in the hangar bay. And then whoever's battlefield we're not playing on gets 2 shields to resolve to their characters, and these shields will block damage. So we'll put 1 on Poe, we'll put 1 on Rey, and kind of balance it out. Then my battlefield goes away for the rest of the round, for the rest of the whole game. And then our opponent gets to go first. So we'll step into their shoes now. So as I mentioned before, a relatively easy game. You have a few actions that you're allowed to take. One of which, the first one, is you can play a card from your hand. So we look at our hand right now, and we have some cool cards. We have Doubt, which is essentially going to kind of remove our opponent's die. We have I Have You Now, turning a die to a side showing damage. As I Have Foreseen, which costs 0. The cost is in the upper left-hand corner. This has Ambush, so you can play this card and then take another action. Look at each opponent's hand. Tactical Mastery, or First Strike. So you can play a card from your hand. These could be upgrades. These could be events like we have here. For example, let's take a look at a good example of an upgrade. What we have here is an upgrade that we would play on a character. What we could do to play this upgrade is we could spend the cost, which is 2 resources, which we have, and we could then upgrade the character with this ability. So this person would be a Praetorian Guard, and I will pay 2 to give this upgrade to Captain Phasma. And this upgrade provides us with some melee dice and some modified melee. It's going to essentially give us another die to roll in and another die for our opponent to worry about. And that's the strength of upgrades. However, we are broke now. We do not have any money to spend on some of these one-cost events. And we do not have extra money to spend on Kylo's dice here. So that's going to be playing a card from your hand. Of course, that could be an event. Say we had played As I Have Foreseen. What we could do is we could look at our opponent's hand and gain that valuable information. And so that's just playing a card from hand. That's our first action. The second action you can take is to activate a character or a support. So our characters right now, Captain Phasma and Kylo Ren, are ready. Okay, and so we would be able to activate them. They would become exhausted, and then we're allowed to roll in all dice attached to them. So their character dice and their support and their upgrade dice. So we'd roll these in. Great roll. We have 2 range damage, 2 range damage, and 1 resource. It's bread and butter, damage and resources. So now that is our action. We've rolled in our character, and now our opponent may want to interfere with our dice, or may want to get out an upgrade of their own. But yes, activating characters is one action. And so we'll activate Kylo here, and that would be an action. And then also we have an area here for supports. And these supports, what they'll do is they'll assist us, but they also take an action to activate and bring their die in. So we'll pay for these similar to upgrades. However, these upgrades, or the supports, these supports are not attached to a character, so they exist on their own. Now that we have our dice rolled in for Captain Phasma and Kylo, the third action that we can take is to resolve our dice. And by resolving them, what that means is we'll remove them from what's known as the dice pool, which is where the dice are sitting right now. We will remove them and we'll do their associated action. So for example, we have 2 dice showing 2 damage. The nice thing about dice is you can actually resolve same-sided dice at once to speed up your turn. So say I wanted to do 4 damage here, I could resolve this 4 damage against, let's say we want to hit Poe really hard. So we would end up doing, after we get rid of the shield, we would do 3 damage. And we've resolved these dice, usually by the not broken rules. These dice are no longer allowed in the dice pool until the end of the round. However, there are ways to reactivate your character and things like that. The other thing that we could say here too is, all right, on our Praetorian Guard, we have 1 resource and 1 resource on Kylo Ren. So what we'll do is we'll resolve these dice as an action, and we'll get 2 resources for resolving these dice. The fourth action here is a very interesting one. Say all these dice were out here. Say we had really bad dice. We had rolled blanks, blanks, blanks across the board. Well, we can't resolve these blanks because they don't do anything. Any card in your hand at any time for an action can be discarded to re-roll any or all of your dice, which gives even the most irrelevant card value. So we're going to, say, discard this as I have foreseen, and now we have the option of re-rolling any of our dice that are in here, and we can do this as many times as we have cards. So say I like this resource, and I like this Kylo die, which I need to pay 1 resource to resolve 2 melee damage. I like that because I think I can resolve those, but I can't resolve these blanks. I'm going to discard the card, I'm going to re-roll all these dice, and, you know, hopefully roll better. But here we just have a special on Phasma and 2 more blanks. The fourth action available to us is to use an action on a card. So there do exist cards that will have an action on the card itself, and it'll say, action, do this. Usually what we're doing is we're exhausting that card, which could be a support or an upgrade. We're exhausting that card, and we are taking that specific action. So we'll see more of that later. The final action you can take on your turn is to claim the battlefield. And usually this happens later in the turn after you've taken some actions, resolved some dice. And what you're going to do is you're going to simply say to your opponent, I'm going to claim the battlefield. And that does a couple things. One is you get to claim ability on Hangar Bay. For example, it says claim. Reveal the top card of an opponent's deck. If that card is an event or a support, deal 1 damage to a character. So for example, what we'll do is we'll take this, we'll reveal it. If the card is an event or a support, which Recon is an event, we then deal 1 damage to a character. So that's basically the game of Star Wars Destiny. What you're doing is you're taking actions back and forth, you're interfering with their dice, and you're trying to gain advantages from your own and from your cards and to establish your board state. It's all very exciting, and then somebody claims, and then it goes until the other person passes, and then we move on to a new round. So a couple things happen there. What happens is you will, let's say we played our Praetorian Guard, we're going to the Upkeep Phase. And the Upkeep Phase says, ready your exhausted cards. So Captain Captain Phasma will then go to the ready, and Kylo Ren presumably. So you'll activate all of you'll ready all of your characters, your supports, anything that's been exhausted or tapped. You will then gain 2 resources, so you gain 2 resources flat every turn. You can't always gain more from cards or from the dice that you resolve, or some that you didn't spend from last turn. The other thing that you're going to be able to do is, say cards in your hand aren't really relevant anymore and you didn't use them all. You can discard any cards that you want before you draw back up to your hand size of 5. So in this case, we'll keep Doubt and we'll draw 4 more cards. And then this will be our new hand for the next round. And we keep repeating. The goal of the game is to either mill your opponent out, or more commonly, you're going to be doing damage to their characters until they're dead. So the first person to not have any characters alive on the field, or to end the round with no cards in their hand and with no cards in their deck, that person loses. And that's the basic function of Star Wars Destiny. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to simulate a game playing as both sides. And we're going to take a few quick actions to give you an idea of the flow of the game. By the way, this 2-player set is available on store shelves now for, I believe, $30. And it's a great representative of the game. You have some really strong competitive cards in this 2-player set, and if you were to go out and get 2 boxes, you can basically build a competitive deck from it. After that, you have singles and booster boxes that you can buy, and right now Star Wars Destiny is on their 3rd set called Empire at War. Before that, you had Spirit of Rebellion, and the first booster box set was called Awakenings. So we have a bigger card pool to play from, and a lot of cool choices when it comes to deck building that 30-card deck, and also picking your 30 points of characters. And that's essentially Star Wars Destiny as it exists right now. So we're going to take you through a round or 2 rounds of the 2-player game with me playing as both sides, so you get an idea of the flow of the game. And it's really fun and a lot of really interesting choices to make. So let's dive into the game. We're going to reset the board state and we're going to go. So we have our game all ready and set up to play with 2 players. One thing I didn't mention earlier on was, what do the die faces actually mean? And so we're going to actually get into that as we play the game, and I'll give you some thoughts on what's going through my head as we play the game. So we're going to set up for our 2-player game, and I'm going to start as Rey and Poe, and then I'll roll their dice in and play for Phasma and Kylo. So we have a couple cool things here. We have Poe Dameron's blaster, which is super cool. It's a unique, which is that little diamond that's right on the card. That little diamond means that you can only ever have one of these in play, one of Poe Dameron's blaster, because it is a unique weapon. So we're going to pick that one. We're also going to keep Logistics, which is a 0-cost event, and it says spot a red character, which means we would need to have a red character alive on our side to resolve one of your dice showing a resource, increasing its value by 1. So we're going to hold on to it and hope that we roll a resource and try to gain a lot more money. Strategic Planning is ready or exhaust a support. We don't have any supports in our hand, so we'll probably pitch that one. And then also Distraction. Choose 2 dice, then opponent chooses and removes one of those dice. So we have a little bit of removal. Defensive Stance, give a character 2 shields. We're gonna throw that one back. We're gonna throw Strategic Planning back, and we're gonna throw Distraction back. We're gonna reshuffle. We're gonna draw up to our hand size, and then we're essentially ready to go. We have some cool stuff here. We got a Defensive Stance back. How about that? All right. So as we mentioned, both players will roll their dice in, and the one with the greater value on their dice gets to pick which battlefield they're on. And Phasma and Kylo are rolling hella good. Look at this. 2, 2, 1, 1 for a total of 6. Let's see if we can try and combat that or not. Doesn't look so. Doesn't look that way. So we're going to let Kylo and Phasma do it. And I think what we're going to do is they want to play on Obi-Wan's hut, because although we'll get to go first, they get 2 shields, which is very valuable. So we're going to get rid of this the light side player will get to go first, and the dark side player will put their 2 shields for not playing on their battlefield. They'll put their 2 shields on their characters, and that means it's our turn, which is pretty awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to play it a little risky, and we're just going to put Poe Dameron's blaster on Poe, which is very thematic. This game is very thematic across the board, and there's a lot of cool cinematic moments to be had when you're playing some cool teams and some really neat items, lightsabers and blasters, riot batons, the whole works. So this die has a special side, one of its 6 sides, that says deal 2 damage to a character or 3 damage instead if it's attached to Poe. And so we get that extra little buff on this die here because it is attached to Poe. So we're going to attach that, and that'll be our turn. All right, so now it's the dark player's turn, the dark side, and we have a couple really cool options here. We have Kylo Ren's Crossguard lightsaber, which is a weapon that we can play and do some much bigger damage, and it's similar to Poe's blaster, where if it's attached to Kylo Ren, after you play the upgrade on Kylo Ren, you can just ping somebody, deal 1 damage to a character. Nice little benefit to that. We have Mobilized, which is we can spend 3 resources to gain 4 resources, which is sick. I mean, it's an early play. If we were to get that 3rd resource, we could play this card and get an extra one. Captain Phasma's blaster. So when this upgrade is attached to Captain Phasma, it has the redeploy keyword. And what redeploy means is that if the attached character dies, then that weapon or upgrade will move to the another character of your choosing that's alive. So that's pretty awesome too, where you can kind of keep these guns and lightsabers and upgrades in the game for a little while longer, get more value out of them. It does cost 3 though, and we only have 2 resources for the start of our turn. Also have Jedi Rival, cost 1 after you activate attached character. So it is attached as an upgrade to a character. You may remove 1 shield from a character. So it doesn't seem too impactful. We also have Doubt, which is a really good removal. What we do is we re-roll an opponent's die. Then that opponent either resolves that die or removes it. So it does play into the dice theme a little bit, where you're rolling it and they could roll something really good or they could roll something really bad. But that way they're forced out of their choosing of what to do with the die. It also costs 0, which is primo. It doesn't cost us anything to play this. So what we're going to do, I think, for our turn is we're going to take the action of activating a character. And I'm just going to activate Phasma. Roll her dice into the dice pool. We're really hoping for that resource, but no, we got 2 blanks, which means we're probably going to need to pitch a card to re-roll them. That really stinks. Back to the light side. As the light side player, we're super happy to see double blanks. That offers us a little bit more allowance on what to do. So what we're going to do is we are going to roll in Poe Dameron. And he has his blaster attached. We have some really good dice on Poe. We have 2 damage. We have Poe Dameron's special, which reads, give a character 1 shield. You may turn another die to any side. And then also we have 1 solid resource, which is great because that enables our logistics. For free, we can spot a red character to resolve one of our dice, showing a resource, increasing its value by 1. But that's our turn, and we're going to the dark side. As the dark side player, we're super scared of seeing all these great and resourceful dice on that side. So I think what we're going to do is we're most scared of this 2 damage coming in. So what we're going to do is we're going to doubt. We're going to play a 0-cost event on our turn, playing a card from our hand, and we're going to re-roll an opponent's die. Then that opponent either resolves that die or removes it. And I'm scared of this 2 damage, so we're going to re-roll this. And he is going to resolve it. Since I'm playing both characters, he's going to resolve the 1 damage onto, he doesn't know yet, he's going to resolve it onto Kylo, which eliminates Kylo's shield. As the light side player, we're okay with resolving 1 damage. It's not too bad, and it's not the end of the world. But before they do anything with this die here, we're going to play logistics. Oh, excuse me, I didn't pay my money for Poe Dameron's blaster. So we have 0 money right now, but logistics is about to change that. Spot a red character, we have Poe alive, and we're going to resolve the die showing a resource, increasing its value by 1, which really hurts for the dark side player. That's our action. All right, huge bummer for us that we rolled 2 blanks. So what we're going to do is, I think we're going to, even though Kylo Ren has these 2 sides, which have 2 melee, to resolve them, we need to pay 1, as the dice indicates. So oftentimes it's good to have some resources up. Let's just roll him in and see what we got. I was thinking about attaching the crossguard lightsaber, which would be awesome and thematic, but we're going to see what we roll on Kylo Ren. So we're activating him. We have 1 resource and a blank. It's not the day for Darkseid, it appears. That's our action, activating Kylo. All right, on the light side, we're feeling pretty confident. We still have Rey that can be activated. We have 2 resources, which is awesome. And we have a whole host of blanks that the opponent has right now. So what do we have here? We have Recon. Choose a symbol showing on a die. This does cost 1, which we can afford. Then turn another die to a die showing the same symbol. Okay. A lot of cool things. So this is not just ours. We can actually interfere with their dice too. So say we had a blank on our die up. Then what we would do is we could pay 1, and then we could turn one of our opponent's dice to show a blank and kind of force them to re-roll or take some damage off. No real application right now since their dice are so garbage. Luke's Protection, cost 0. Action. So this is one of the action cards, right? We can take this as an action. Place the support on top of your deck from play to give a blue character 1 shield. So we can recycle it. Let's just put Luke's Protection in play. We'll say we're going to play Luke's Protection. Awesome. That's our turn. Well, we really don't like what we're seeing here on our dice as the Darkseid player. So what we're going to do is going to be something kind of unique. Okay. What I have because I know that the light side player is not going to interfere with my dice too much because there's nothing to worry about. We have blanks. We have no resources on the table. Real bad. We do have our 1 resource though, and what we're going to do is we're going to resolve this resource and start to make them guess about what we're doing here. All right, the light side player is wondering what's coming out. They're probably figuring there's an upgrade coming out. He has 3 resources. Apparently that was so important to risk not putting damage on and just get those resources that we know something's coming out. However, we just don't have anything to do to mitigate his resources. There is a die side that shows a disrupt symbol, which is Poe Dameron's blaster. Let me show you that side real quick. So Poe Dameron's blaster, this is what's known as a disrupt right here. And what you can do is you could resolve this die to eliminate 1 of their resources. So you don't steal it or anything. You just tell them to get rid of 1 resource. And that's a way to mitigate their resources. But we don't have any of that on the table. We just have the Poe special. We're going to save this because what we can do is his special is give a character 1 shield, so we could give Poe himself a shield, and then you can turn a die to any side. And so we're going to wait for them to re-roll their dice here because we know that they want to get some more value out of these dice before the turn ends. So we can resolve this die later on, and we can give a character a shield, and then we can mess with their dice. Rey is still up. Let's just do this. Let's activate Rey. Let's bring her in. 2 and 1. That's pretty good. So this is 2 melee, 2 damage, and also a resource. One of the things I wanted to talk about, we're going to actually go to the dark side again because I missed a little activation that I wanted to talk about. So Kylo Ren has this ability that we should have done. And it's after you activate this character, you can choose a color, blue, red, yellow, or gray, then reveal a random card in an opponent's hand. If that card matches the chosen color, deal 2 damage to a character. So this is upon activation, and I completely forgot it because I actually haven't played with the new Kylo yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to pretend that I just activated the character. Okay, we're going to switch it to the side. And then we're going to say, we know that they can only have blue, red, and gray in their deck. They can't have any yellow cards because they don't have a yellow character. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say, I think that the card that I draw that I'm going to look at from your hand is going to be a red card. So he's going to pick a card randomly, and let's say he picks this card. He says, I think this card is a red card. We show him the red card, and of course his ability resolves. Reveal a random card in an opponent's hand. If that card matches the chosen color, deal 2 damage to a character. So he's a little bit more worried about Poe because of his blaster on there. And so this comes back to my hand, and he does 2 damage to Poe, which that really adds up turn after turn. So as the light side player, we had just rolled in Ray. We got some great dice with a resource showing and 2 damage. Going back to the dark side, we still have 4 cards in hand. And so what we're going to do is we have absolute junk on here, but we're going to wait just a little while longer to resolve these dice and to interfere with them, because we're going to play Mobilize, which is a sit card. Now that we have 3 resources, we are going to pay 3 to gain 4 resources. So essentially, if you have 3, you gain an extra 1. So it's just kind of a different way to bring in resources outside of something like logistics that the light side player played. Now we have 4. That's pretty good. Moving back to the light side of the board, what we have now is we have a cool special that we're going to save. We have 2 damage. We have a resource, and we are going to do something as well. We are going to pay 1. Or no, I'm sorry, we're not going to pay 1. We're going to discard the card as our action to reroll some dice. And what we're going to do is we're going to reroll both these dice. We're going to get rid of the dice that we've been saving for so long, and we're just going to hope for damage to really smack them. And look at that. 2, 2, 2. Now we can't resolve them all at once because they're not all the same side. However, we can resolve the 2 melee sides together, and we're going to definitely do that on our next turn before the dark side player messes with us too much. As the dark side player, we are absolutely sweating what they've got on the other side of the board. They have 6 damage showing on their dice. We do not have anything that we can do about this. However, we do have money. And what we're going to do is we're going to play Captain Phasma's Blaster on Captain Phasma herself. And that cannot be rolled in, unfortunately, because we've already activated Captain Phasma. But it's just a good thing to do while we have the action. So we're going to pay those 3. So we're going to play Captain Phasma's Blaster on her. But we know that there is a lot of hate coming on the light side player's side of things. So all right, we are super happy on the light side. What we're going to do is we're going to resolve 4 damage. 4 melee. We're going to resolve the melee because they have the same sides. And we are going to do that to Captain Phasma because we just saw that she had her blaster come on. Even though we know it has redeploy because it's Captain Phasma, we actually, you know what? She only has 10 health, effectively 11 with this shield. So we're going to do all of our damage to Kylo because that ability that he triggered against us really is scary. So we're going to apply 4 damage to Kylo Ren. And we're going to go to the dark side player's turn. The dark side player just had a lot of hate come onto Kylo Ren. What we're going to do is we have blanks showing, and now it's our turn to try and throw a little bit of hate back at the light side here. And so we're going to discard Jedi Rival, and we're going to reroll all these dice. And we still got 2 blanks. Oh, no. That's a big bummer. But that's our action, and we got to live by it, unfortunately. Back to the light side. All right, now we have a pretty simple turn here. We're going to try and nuke Kylo Ren as fast as possible. So we're going to send 2 damage, resolve our 2 range damage die on Kylo, putting him at 6 damage out of his 12 health, which is pretty sick. All right, as the dark side player, we're super frustrated because we have Captain Phasma's Blaster out, but we still roll blanks. We're down to 1 card, so we can only essentially re-roll 1 time. We know that Captain Phasma's special ability is deal 2 damage to a character or 3 damage if it has 6 or more damage on it. So we'll be dealing 2 damage to her. But what we want to do is I think maybe we'll save that die because it's a reliable 2 damage. And even though it really hurts to give out this really cool lightsaber, what we're going to do is we're going to pitch the card to reroll for damage. All right. Well, this is great. much better result. We have, with Captain Phasma's ability, we have effectively 4 damage, and because the 2 special sides are like-sided, we can resolve both those specials at once, which is awesome. The melee we're going to need to resolve on our own. Switching to the light side player, our turn's almost coming to a close, and we've moved a little faster because we haven't had to re-roll everything. We know that the dark side player is going to want to resolve these dice right here, the specials, and of course the 1 damage to just simply try and do something on their turn. So what we're going to do is, since we know we have a little bit of breathing room before somebody claims the battlefield as their action, we are going to play Luke's Protection, and we're going to place a support on top of our deck from play to give a blue character 1 shield. So we're going to take this action, we're going to flip this and put it on the top of our deck so we know it's coming back, and we are going to give Ray, because it said a blue character, we're going to give Ray 1 shield so that she can block that extra bit of damage. Moving to the dark side, what we're going to do is we're going to resolve our specials, which is a really easy call, I think. Normally what we'd want to do is we want to resolve these specials one at a time to try and get that extra boost, so when it has 6 damage on it. So if this were a 6 damage on a character, for example, because Captain Phasma says deal 2 damage to a character, or 3 damage if that character has 6 or more damage. So to try and get that value, what we would want to do is we want to get Poe to 6 damage and eke that little extra 1 point of damage in. However, we don't have it because we're out of cards to reroll. Kylo's only showing a 1. If we do 1 damage, we do 2 damage. That brings him to 5 health, and we just can't get that extra damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to resolve these specials before the blue player might interfere with them, and we're going to deal 4 damage, bringing him to 6. The light side player will go. The light side player is effectively out of options. They do have resources. They could give a character 2 shields. But what they're going to do is they're going to hold on to these 2 resources. They're going to claim the battlefield, which signifies kind of the end of their turn, as I mentioned. And they're going to give a blue character 1 shield, or spend 1 resource to give a non-blue character 1 shield. I think we're actually going to do that. We're going to spend a resource, and we're going to give our non-blue character 1 shield, which is Poe Dameron. And that shield is going to give him 1 more effectively extra point of health before he dies. And now we've claimed, so which means we get to go first in the next round. And now the blue player can take as many actions as they want, but what they're going to do to finish their turn, since they're out of cards, they're going to resolve 1 melee, and they're going to do it to negate that shield. That shield will block damage, and there are a few cards that definitely get past shields, but shields overall are a pretty good way of mitigating incoming damage. And there you have 1 round of Destiny. So what'll happen is then we'll go to a refresh phase, right, where everybody will ready their characters, ready their supports. So we'll ready everybody here. Now Phasma's got her sweet blaster, Poe Dameron's got his blaster, and then what we would do is we'd take 2 resources each player. So we'll give the other player his 2 resources. We each have 3 going into the next turn, which is means it's probably going to be a guns blazing kind of turn. And then we get to draw up to our hand size. So in our case, we get to draw 4, and we get Ray's lightsaber, which is sick. So we can play it. It has a benefit to going on to Ray. Very thematic, and we have 3 resources to start, which is excellent. So really cool themes in all these cards. There's a host of cards to choose from now. We have 3 sets that are effectively like 160 cards. We also have a few base sets, but this base set you can actually go out and buy if you wanted to play it in real life. And Tabletop Simulator is absolutely fantastic. But now you have the rundown of how to play Star Wars Destiny, and there's a lot of fun to be had. If you're ever looking for a game, let me know. Out of curiosity, let's see what the dark side player would have drawn, because you always draw up to 5 cards. Cool stuff. Look at this. You got Intimidate, 0 cost, remove all shields from the character. So say they start shielding up again, especially with that Luke's presence, we can remove those for free. We have a really cheap upgrade here that has 2 blanks on the die, but it has focus symbols. And this is one of the last ones that I'll talk about as far as die faces go. Let's say we pay to put Dark Council out on Kylo Ren, and we roll this in. Got a special there. We're not going to fight the die too long here. But let's say that we got our focus, okay? What's cool here is say we've got all of our dice rolled out. Everything's good. Say we roll a blank or 2. We got a great melee roll. But let's say we want something different on this die. These focus dice, what this means is you can resolve this die and you can turn the die to any face that you want. So here we're going to put that 2 melee damage by resolving the Dark Council here. We're going to use that focus symbol to change a die to a different side, and now we effectively have 4 damage instead of 3. So those are the dice sides of Star Wars Destiny and the effective flow of the game. Now this is the base set, but when it gets really cool is when you start customizing your dice from a whole big large card pool that has different iconic characters: Mace Windu, Jabba the Hutt, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader. You've got some new guys like Ahsoka, you've got the Grand Inquisitor, and all these cool upgrades, abilities, really powerful events to mess with your opponent. And there's a whole nother color of characters too in the yellow side, which are more of the scoundrels, the scum, the very clever rogue-like characters, whereas blue are often Force users, Jedis, or Sith. We also have the red characters, which are more military-focused, like Captain Phasma and Poe Dameron. And there's ships to be used. It's just a lot of fun. I think you'll really enjoy it. If you were curious about this game at all, we can definitely play it on Tabletop Simulator. And we'll get into some more hardcore decks that have been fine-tuned a little bit in Empire at War soon. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the GamerDen Network. And thanks for catching up with me, Shaun, a.k.a. TheShaunsie. We'll be seeing you soon with more Star Wars Destiny content. Thanks a lot.